Hello. Hi there. Sorry for the late stream. Welcome. How's everybody doing? Everything cool? If you're wondering why Senator Armstrong is here, I'll let you find out why.
Typical politician. Big promises, but all talk. What?
Yes, that's where I got my title from. Typical politician. Big promises, but all talk. Which is oddly fitting because that's pretty much what the chapter's about. So since we're so behind on a lot of stuff, what I'll do for today is just kind of read what other people have said and just comment on it. We'll go from there. So we'll start with maybe mute, because we're a little behind on mute. So let's see. Twitter. So we can start with mute, because I haven't read... I've read his stuff. I've caught up on his stuff because it was pretty easy. But I've been pretty behind on things. There's also like a lot of stuff that like I haven't read on Reddit. So I got to do that. Damn, a lot of people unfollowed. That was quick. Doesn't take much for people to unfollow me, does it? Okay, I'll just look up mute. Or not. Okay, wait, never mind, there he goes. I was just worried it was going to give me something weird. Okay, let's see what Mute had to say regarding this chapter. I already formulated some of my opinion regarding the chapter, but not like everything. That's like stuff I personally need to implement too, so that's probably like why I came to that conclusion. Let's see, an out of nowhere stream, lol. Yeah, look, it's been a little bit messy in my daily life, but that's also made me realize more how much I need to actually set goals and become like more organized. Otherwise, like the streaming and YouTube thing is never really going to work properly because we're going to have issues like this again in the future. So a big part of this has definitely been needing to like organize. So I set like proper stream times and like do things well, which is ironic considering that seems to be the theme of the current arc, which is like, you know, learning to set plans, but also knowing when to wing it. Something Chizuru herself said. This is an analysis and impression piece of the satisfaction rating of Chapter 418. The theme this time is from stagnation to turning point. Kazu's relationship with Chizuru hasn't been progressing much, but I think the appearance of Sumi-chan this time will serve as a turning point. Okay, I forgot. We need to stop using grok. I forgot. Big mistake. Oh, actually, wait. I can just translate to English. Boom. Problem solved. Okay. Yomori points out that for Chizuru, dating is not because she likes him, but because of a sense of obligation to take responsibility. Whoa, really? I don't remember this. What's the blitz of the chapter? Her ridiculous super serious and lady act is still in full force. She's just way too cautious when it comes to anything related to love. It didn't seem like Ruka-chan said anything to her either. I think she was telling the truth when she said she'd date you, but she made it sound like a heavy responsibility. I couldn't help but wonder if she'd ever fall in love with anyone. No matter how much you confess your feelings, for real. Ah, yeah. So from Minnie's perspective, which is very much aligned well with a lot of people's perspective, is that Chizuru isn't really doing this because she actually loves him, right? But because of that, they're fucking missing the point. They're kind of missing why Minnie is saying this. They're completely blind to what's in front of them. She's literally doing this because she loves him, because she cares that fucking much about him. But why does she feel so responsible? It's almost like it's fucking guilt. You stupid idiot. She literally closes her eyes. I I think like I kind of realized like I wanted to do this for the thumbnail. I was debating doing this for the thumbnail, but it kind of I kind of came to the realization that they're essentially blinded by light. They're so okay. You know how I always talk about like, oh, you need light and darkness, light and darkness. I always felt that was weird because I didn't quite understand one particular thing. I understood how light possibly needed darkness because in some ways darkness defines light. Like for example, without a shadow, you technically don't have form, so it can't really see you properly. That's like a whole thing with like vampires, where a vampire doesn't have a shadow, therefore they're not reflected in a mirror. Get it? So I kind of understood that, but then I never understood like certain things about like the idea of like light and darkness and all that stuff. So I kind of researched it and like understood the actual conceptual idea of like light and darkness. So basically, in simple terms, if you're curious why the two need to coexist, essentially, is that darkness is literally defined as the absence of light. So literally, light needs to exist for darkness to exist. Darkness cannot exist if light does not exist, because it is literally defined as the absence of light. Okay? In contrast, light can exist without darkness. However, we need darkness in order to understand light. What do I mean by this? Well, basically, light can exist just completely on its own. There's nothing wrong with that. Except without darkness, you literally cannot give light form. So you can't like see the shading of my skin or like the details of the world around you without the existence of darkness. Therefore, darkness is necessary in order to perceive and understand the world more accurately. We literally need it in order to understand the world more accurately. So while light can exist on its own, it can literally not be defined in some form, technically speaking, for the human person without the existence of darkness. So when I started looking at it like that, suddenly I kind of understand what Reiji's kind of trying to do, where basically the characters are like too blinded by the light to see the shadows they need to see. They're so busy looking at the thing they want and how beautiful it is and how great it is, they're missing all the signs for like the shadows they need to start looking at. And that's pretty much essentially Minnie here, is that why do you think we keep seeing so much white? Notice the white backgrounds. Notice the motif of like light being essentially cut out when it comes to like certain characters like Chizuru, whereas with characters like Kazuya, he's like always in shadows, but he's surrounded by light. It's as if he's literally blind to himself. So I think that's why it's so fascinating, right? It's so fascinating seeing that, where Kazuya's face is drawn so serious hearing that. Yes, exactly, because this is literally like, in some ways, validating his fear. What Minnie is saying here is that, oh, Chizuru is doing this out of a sense of responsibility and kindness, not because she actually fucking loves you, which essentially validates Kazuya's fears. That's why, what does he say in response? Oh, I gotta step up, right? I gotta help her fall in love. But they're literally trapped in illusions. Chizuru herself is trapped in a form of cycle. But that's what's fascinating, is that when you think about it a little bit, all the characters are essentially in cycles, but are they really cycles or are they spirals? Because every single character wants to escape their cycle. Ruka doesn't want to be in her cycle. Mami doesn't want to be in her cycle. They all want to escape their cycles. And so the Reiji essentially makes you question, are they in a loop or are they in a spiral? So it's not something like Chainsaw Man, where Chainsaw Man essentially has a loop theory, where essentially Denji just kind of does the same thing over and over and over and over again. And technically, he doesn't change, if you think about it. Like, he essentially comes back to the same exact conclusions over and over and over again. And the very end of the story, spoilers for Chainsaw Man, it begins as it ended, where Pochita again makes a choice for Denji. Right? The story all started when Pochita made a choice for Denji, and he became Chainsaw Man. So Pochita again had to make a choice to not be Chainsaw Man. He realized he essentially did the same thing in order to end the cycle. Thematically speaking, that makes perfect sense. Like, you end the cycle by in some ways doing a similar thing. Whereas with this, it's not a cycle, it's a spiral. There is an end. And whether you like it or not, an end is coming. And that's essentially like the idea that I think Reiji's dealing with here, where it looks like we're looping. We're so convinced this is just a big loop. But we're not time looping, we're time leaping. We're jumping through time. We're trapping ourselves in what we consider to be a loop, but it's not a loop. You're jumping through time. That's why Reiji does all these time references, like Steins Gate or like other stuff that he's talked about. Like he even references something like a Matrix, which isn't really time travel, but the idea is there. Basically, time is about perception. And because your perception is so blind, you're not perceiving how you're literally jumping through time. What do we do in this chapter? We literally skip a week. What did we do earlier in chapter 398 or 99? We skip 2 weeks. We keep skipping time. We're literally intentionally jumping through time. We're leaping through time. We're not time looping, we're time jumping. And we're essentially returning to our origin. Right? And but the difference is we went back to our origin, but we're not the same. Therefore, it's not a time loop, it's a time leap. It's not a loop, it's a spiral. We're literally jumping to certain events that look similar, but they're not. And I think that's the whole idea, is that Kazuya essentially, thematically speaking, think of it like this. Kazuya at the beginning of the story sat in front of an edge. At the very beginning of the story, Kazuya sat in front of an edge. And he leaped off of that edge without really thinking about it. And it turned out okay. Right? He leaped off of the edge and it turned out okay. Now, Kazuya sits on that same edge. And he can't just casually leap. It's scary now. Why? Because he actually has to start thinking about it. Should I just jump off? Can I jump off? Is it a good idea to just jump off? And it's not simply about a leap of faith, but rather about thinking your choices through. Actually making real choices and thinking them through. And so you come back to this entire sequence with Sumi. Why is Kazuya even here? So let's read what he asks Grok. Or Croc in this case. It's a crocodile. I like you. Please go out with me. Absolutely. Runaway number 1. Show up the most in the survey dramas. Number 2. I've liked you for a long time. Please go out with me. What does this achieve? You're doing the same thing, expecting a different result. What is the goal here? You've confessed to her. Kazuya has already confessed multiple times. Why does he think confessing again is going to change anything? Do you see what Reiji's doing? He's making it look like he's looping. We're not looping. We're just making the same decisions thinking it's going to give us a different result. That's why it looks like we're looping. Nothing about this has been a loop. It's been literally blind ignorance. You're ending up in similar positions expecting them to end differently. And then they don't. So every single time, what has happened? Kazuya meets with Umi, he ends up surprised. Because he's expecting it to be one way and it's not. He meets up with Ruka, expects it to be different. It's literally the fucking same as before. Right? He expects it to be something else. It's fucking not. He ends up with Mami. He expects it to be different. It's fucking not. And I think the biggest thing that I kind of now understand is this sequence. Kazuya thinks about Ruka here. Right? Kazuya thinks about Ruka. He says, I love Mizuhara. He thinks about Ruka and he says, I won't make that same mistake again. Then Mami pops into his head. Why does Reiji visually show this? He literally just made the same mistake again with Mami. It's not that it's going to happen again with Sumi. He already did it with Mami. He already made the mistake. It already happened again. He talks about not doing it again. He already did it again. He ended up in a private room with Mami. Again. What the fuck did you think was going to happen? So, it's not that something might happen with Sumi, it's that it already happened with Mami. And then, what happens? We get to Sumi, and yet again, you are surprised. Because why? Kazuya walked in blind. He walked in this entire sequence of Sumi completely blind. He's in shadows. The light is behind him, he is in shadows. He has no idea what the fuck he's walking into. So, visually, what Reiji conveys here with Sumi is that she closes his eyes. So Sumi introduces darkness, and that darkness gives perspective to light. through the darkness, right? These panels are intentionally right next to each other. Through darkness, you get perspective on light. You need darkness in order to see what's in front of you more clearly. That is why that happens. But then 2 introduces the idea of surprise. You didn't see this coming. Why? You haven't talked to Sumi in ages. You don't know shit about her. You have no idea what the fuck you're walking into. You came in completely blind. And yet Sumi actually wasn't that blind. Right? Sumi was not blind. Sumi's eyes are closed, and yet she was able to recognize Kazuya despite not knowing about his hair. I'm surprised you recognized me without my usual hair. Oh, because of my cap. Kazuya had no idea how she recognized him. But what happened here? Kazuya came in here having no idea how Sumi's going to recognize him. Did you notice that? He had no plan on how Sumi was going to recognize him. He got lucky. Because he wore this hat he hadn't worn in ages. Did he even plan for Sumi to notice the hat? Or was it just complete happenstance? Did you notice that Kazuya never once speaks of the hat? He never once talks about his beanie at all, ever. I swear to God, the spoilers aren't out. I don't know if you already said it, but the Sumi x Chizuru conversation is probably going to come up in the day. Absolutely. And what is that going to do? That's going to introduce the darkness that Kazuya is not thinking about. Why do I say that? One, first off, it contradicts Minnie's words, but also gives them context. How do I explain this? Okay. Where did Chizuru and Sumi talk? All right, let's go to the scene where Sumi and Chizuru talked. Where did Chizuru and Sumi talk? And don't worry, I know the spoilers aren't out. You guys already told me when they come out. Where do Sumi and Chizuru talk? In a dark hallway. They talk in a dark hallway with the light peeking through. Chizuru tells Sumi how much she cares about Kazuya and how much he means to her. And how much she thinks about him this entire time. Kazuya doesn't understand why Chizuru feels so responsible. He doesn't think there's romantic love there. But Sumi can clearly see there's a romantic element there. Right? She can kind of tell there's a romantic element there, and it's really weighing on Chizuru. Kazuya does not see that. Kazuya is completely blind to this. All he cares about is the confession. So Sumi introducing this is really, really fucking important. Because what this is going to do, this is going to introduce the perspective Kazuya is missing to understand the light more clearly. And I bet Kazuya probably won't be able to cope with this very well. Because Kazuya's image of Chizuru is that she's cold and doesn't care about him, and she's an iron lady. Because Minnie keeps saying that, and he's convinced himself it's the truth. He's blinded by light. So when Sumi contradicts him and is like, no, Chizuru isn't fucking like that, Kazuya's not going to be able to cope with this. Because he's convinced of the shadows he's looking at. I just randomly realized something about what the cheer update was for Chizuru. Hawaiians was for Kazuya, but through a darker lens. I don't know what that means. You'll have to elaborate. The real question is, why is Kazuya brought wearing the hat if he wasn't wearing it for 300 plus chapters? Exactly. You mentioned this before, Eddie Man. Kazuya has not worn this beanie in 300 plus chapters. That's really fucking weird. Why is he suddenly wearing it? It's like he's just completely winging it. He didn't even wear this during the prep for the cheer update where he met Sumi. Kazuya is never shown wearing this beanie. Yet suddenly now he wears it? It's presented to you like it's fate. Like it's some sort of destined thing. And it is directly connected to Kazuya's birthday and the gift Sumi's going to give him. What's fascinating about this is that it's an interesting coincidence because Kazuya clearly did not think this through. It's purely coincidence. Kazuya did not think this through. But what did this do, visually speaking? It gave Sumi a visual indicator that he thought about her and remembered her. That this gift she got him meant a lot to him. And yet not once has Kazuya worn it throughout the manga. It's as if it's purely coincidence and he's sending her mixed signals. Now, yeah, it could be retcon next chapter. But that is fascinating. That randomly you're shown Kazuya wearing this, and there's no plan or idea for this. Just as Kazuya meeting Sumi, there's no plan or idea for this. He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. Anyways, let's continue reading Mute. I went on my tangents as usual. Normally, Kazuya would be disappointed or give up on Chizuru after hearing Yamori's words, but Yamori is impressed by Kazuya's words, "I'll make Chizuru fall in love with me." In the fourth panel, Yamori's cheeks are flushed, not because she has a romantic feelings for Kazuya, but because she is moved and touched by the fact that her favorite couple is about to be united. More like she's really... She's staring at what she cannot have. Okay. The contrast between the carelessly discarded shoes and the paper on which the goal is written represents the idea that he talks big but doesn't follow through, and is unsteady on his feet. Ooh, what's he talking about here? Ah, the shoes are casually tossed to the side, and you have the goal taped up, but isn't taped up properly. Yeah, I didn't notice that. The goal isn't taped up properly. It's like skewed to the side. Let's see how it looks on the Japanese version. Yeah, it's even more messy, or more of an angling thing, really. But I do kind of see what he's talking about. The contrast between the carelessly discarded shoes and the paper on which the goal is written represents the idea that he talks big but doesn't follow through, and is unsteady on his feet. The line, "Come back, Yamori-san," reveals Kazuya's weakness as he is still unable to break free from his dependence on others. Well said. Yeah. So, let's read that again. But I have no idea what I should do. Reflected by his shoes, right? The shoes look pretty, right? I think that's something he didn't catch. The shoes look pretty. The goals look organized. He looks like he knows what he's doing. But then you look at it again, right? But then you actually look at what you're being shown. The shoes are toppled over. So they look pretty, but they're toppled over. They're not like steady, right? And then you look at the goal list, and it's not properly taped up, and it looks like a discount goal list. It doesn't look very serious, right? It's not a real goal list. He's not actually making real plans, and his words reflect that. He has a goal list, he has the pretty shoes, but he has no idea what to do. How ironic. You make a whole goal list, you have your shoes, you look like you're prepared, and you don't actually know what the fuck you're doing. That's literally the whole idea. That's creating contrast between what you're actually looking at and what looks like you're looking at, right? This is what it looks like. It's not what it actually is. And that's what's been weird is like I've been interacting with a lot of people who are like really like, oh my god, like look at all the girls falling in love with Kazuya. This is so awesome. This is so hype. Oh my god. Like I've been seeing that from like a person like on who's like occasionally commenting. I think they're called Tsukiyomi. They've been doing that like a lot, where they're like, "Oh, it's so great, it's all that. All the girls are like falling in love with Kazuya." And I'm like, that's not the thing you think it is. And I've been seeing that a little bit from Japanese fans too, where they're very like excited and they think this is all great, but they're kind of missing what's clearly in front of their eyes. And I think that's the point. It's like your perception is power. Perception blinds you. When you look at things in a certain way, how you perceive them is what gives them power. What you think is happening is what you think is the reality, not what it actually is. Let's see. Please come back, Yamori-san, right? Immediately falls apart the moment she steps away. Look at him talking a big game, right? Look at him talking a mad big game. The moment Minnie steps away, he can't fucking do anything all of a sudden. Why are you talking this big ass fucking game if you can't even back it up? What the fuck are you on about? Right? Kazuya loves to talk a big game and he can't back it up. It's all looks. He looks like he has his shit together here. He looks like a dream. He looks like he knows what he's doing. That's what Minnie's attracted to. But that's not Kazuya. She's in love with the idea of him, what he looks like, not who he actually is. Because he's falling the fuck apart. He can't do anything. Okay. It seems Kazuya is traumatized by Chizuru's words in episode 301, I'll propose by helicopter. But he doesn't seem to remember at all that Chizuru corrected herself afterwards. By the way, the cost of charioting a helicopter is 200,000 to 300,000 yen for 2 people for 30 minutes. So we don't have to be the CEO to call one. Yeah, but you do need a little bit of money. Kazuya says about Mami, all the guys at university do that. The important thing is that the subject isn't all of Japan, because for Kazuya, who hasn't entered the workforce yet, the narrow community of university is his world. It all seems like an excuse, saying, I'm just an average university student like any other, so it's understandable they would have these desires for Mami. Ooh, that's good. Kazuya is not looking at the world as a whole, he's merely looking at it from the lens of a university student, and it's purely done to excuse his actions. You know, I noticed this the moment I read it too, where when I read this sequence about Mami, right, when he was talking about, right here, if I tried to kiss Mami-chan at that moment, she probably wouldn't have let me. She probably would have let me. It's not like I haven't thought about what happens after that. She was so sexy, any college man in this position would do it, right? He's purely looking, he's labeling himself as a college student. But that's the thing. He's about to enter the workforce. He's about to graduate. Dude, you don't get to just be a college student anymore. You're almost done with college. You don't just get to be a college student at the very last minute anymore, right? He's still, it shows how he's still looking at himself, right? He's looking at himself like he's still just a normal college student, but look at what he's doing. He's literally putting his head in the sand. It looks like he's putting his head in the sand, right? He says he loves Mizuhara, but he's still looking at himself like a college student. He's not actually thinking about his future and what he wants and what he's going to do. It's kind of like a dude just like sleeping with some girls, right? It's just like some dude sleeping with some girls. So Minnie has fallen over the fake Kazuya rather than the real Kazuya. Correct. She's in love with the idea of him, not actually him. She doesn't actually see the entirety of Kazuya. All she sees is his light. Minnie is blinded by light. That's all she sees. Anyways, Kazuya is literally putting his head in the sand, so he's not actually seeing the full picture properly. And that, I think rather than just, like as Mute described it, rather than just purely a narrow-minded perspective of the workforce, or that like he's not looking at all of Japan, it shows that Kazuya is not actually looking at himself, right? Because for Kazuya, as into the workforce, yet the narrow community of university is his world. Okay, so he's pretty much saying the same thing I am, right? He's looking at it like all Kazuya's world is basically the small little thing that he sees, not the big picture. And that's reflected in Kazuya literally putting his head in the bed, right? His head is in bed. Get it? His head is in the bed. All he thinks about is sex. It's just Denji. It's just Genji. He doesn't actually know what the fuck he wants. He's conflating affection for sex and the physical desires that he feels. He's stopped thinking about what love actually is. He keeps saying, I love this person, but all he's thinking about is sex. He's lost the meaning of love. Just as he's lost himself and what he actually wants for his future in the fact that he's a college student. He's not just a college student anymore. He's about to fucking graduate. Ruka had taken off her ribbon because she thought it was childish, but she's wearing it in the video. The video is a school uniform dance, and wearing a school uniform is important, so Ruka calculated that it would be better to wear a ribbon to look cute and like a high school student. I don't think the author drew it by mistake. Yeah, it's not by mistake. Ruka is still a kid, and I think this is her just getting to be a kid. This is incredibly innocent. I took a video with my friends. Have a look. It shows how Ruka is still like an innocent kid. Right? I think that's the big picture, is like what Reiji is doing with Ruka is that he's creating contrast with, again, it's that theme of light and darkness, where he's creating this contrast between the fact that Ruka is still just a kid. She did this whole thing where she took off her ribbons and she did all that stuff, and yet here she is taking a video in school as a school, because it's a school uniform dance. What does Kazuya look at? Kazuya doesn't even process the fact that she's wearing her ribbon again, that she looks like a kid again. He looks at her skirt. He's becoming a piece of shit. He's becoming a piece of shit. That's the whole idea. No, it's too much to process. What is? What exactly is too much to process? Whenever I see Ruka-chan, I feel guilty about the day all over again. I don't even know where to begin resolving any of these feelings. Start. You have to start. Because there's so much to do, he pulls an ADHD moment and tells himself, I'm not going to do anything because I don't know where to start. That's a very ADHD thing to do. I'm not saying Kazuya has ADHD. I'm just saying he's using his coping mechanism as an escape. His coping mechanism is literally not deal with the problem because it's too complicated. I don't know how to fucking deal with it. He always does this. No, I already made a commitment in front of Yamori-san. Be positive and stay positive. Oh, look, toxic positivity. Look at how small it's drawn. I made a commitment in front of Yamori-san, but look at how small he is in contrast to the sheer size of the issue. Right? The issue is so massive. And he's just putting it to the side. I need to think about only Mizuhara. Nothing else matters. No. You're using Mizuhara as an escape. You're not actually dealing with your fucking problems. Now, what I find interesting, now this is really interesting. I didn't process this before, and I'm still trying to process it right now. Why do we keep seeing Mr. Fish? Did you notice that? We're constantly seeing Mr. Fish. First, Mr. Fish says, so the same stuff as when you rented her, right? Okay. Then Mr. Fish says, there is love found in breakdancing. Okay. There is also love found in standing on your head. What does that mean? Then you get to this one. You can find nearly the same panel 2 pages back. Okay, 1, 2. Oh, look! Same exact panel. So, what does Mr. Fish mean by you can find love? There is also found it standing on your head. There is love found in breakdancing. Is this like, what is this? Is this like the idea that love is found everywhere? Oh my god, enough with the pull on my crew. Okay, I'm just going to ban you. Get the fuck out. Sorry, I just saw some stupid shit on... Twitter, stop. Fucking Twitch, stop being stupid. Twitch, stop being stupid. There. Be gone. Goodbye. Never seeing you again. Cool. So, it makes me curious why Reiji, oh... The moment we first see Mr. Fish is when Kazuya is thinking about the stuff he did with Chizuru while rental dating. So, what Mr. Fish is saying this whole time is that you can find love anywhere, just as you can buy love, technically speaking. So, isn't Kazuya just doing all this bullshit where love exists already. Right? He's searching for love, and love is already in front of him. There is love found in breakdancing. Someone can do breakdancing and find love. They love breakdancing. What is Kazuya saying? I was so happy about what Mizuhara said that I've tried way too hard to act cool. I don't have any confidence in what I possibly say or do to make Mizuhara fall in love with me. But love is already there. What the fuck are you talking about? Then it happens again. Kazuya stands on his head. Someone who could stand on their head may find a form of love. But Kazuya, what does he say? I wouldn't doubt at least that the other dudes have tried it before me. I don't have the money to rent a helicopter anyway. He's talking about getting love. In both instances, he talks about getting love. And what does Mr. Fish say? Love is found in what you're doing right now. Why are you searching for something that's already in front of you? It's the Shintoism belief where everything there's life in everything. And there's love in everything. There's a connection in every single thing. It's something even Kingdom Hearts does, where Kingdom Hearts literally says there is connection all around us. You just have to feel even something that you think wouldn't have something that means something to anyone else probably does. And that's pretty much, I think, what Mr. Fish is saying. It's like that Shintoism belief where it's like there's love in everything. And what Kazuya is doing is that he's doing all these things, he's doing all these unnecessary things to get love, not realizing that very unnecessary task in of itself has love. So what the fuck is he talking about? That's very much what Mr. Fish is saying. It's like, okay, you're doing this unnecessary task to get love, but that task itself has love. So love can be found in just the very task that is meaningless that you're doing. So if love can be found in a meaningless task that you're doing, why do you think you have to do a meaningless task to get love? You don't need to do all these things to get love because just doing that unnecessary thing has love in it. You don't need to do any of this extra stuff. That's essentially what Mr. Fish is saying. That's the joke. He's asking it as a question, like, why is Kazuya doing it? Is that how you'll find it? No, it's not a question. It's not phrased as a question. It's a statement. It's a statement. There's a period. It's not a question. No, it's not. What Mr. Fish is saying is not a question. He is making a statement. His statement contradicts Kazuya's questions or Kazuya's beliefs. That is the whole idea. Kazuya believes one thing. Mr. Fish says you're stupid. And this is what Reishi, I think, is doing. What he's setting up. He's about to give you the answer to love. Love is in everything. There is love all around us. You just have to be willing to see it. Love can take any form. You just have to be willing to see it. But what does Kazuya want? He thinks love is a very particular thing. But love is in everything. Love can be found in anything and everything. A dude might fucking love a rock for some weird fucking reason. It's weird to you, but it's a rock, and a person might find meaning in that rock. Maybe they dig deep enough, and there's a meaning in this fucking rock. There is love in everything. You find meaning in anything and everything. You can love anything and everything. Even a turd. Some person might find feces interesting for some reason. That's a form of love. Whether you think it's dumb and weird or not, it doesn't matter. Right? You can find love in breakdancing, you can find love in standing on your head, singing music. I'm finding love in reading the Invincible comic books. The Invincible comic books. Anywho. Okay. Here again, Kazuya uses the broad generalization that all women are little devils. This raises the question of whether Yamori and Sumi are also little devils. But I think little devil doesn't simply mean someone with a bad personality, but rather someone who intensely stirs up and manipulates emotions. Ooh. For Kazuya has been swayed by Yamori's words and brought to tears by Sumi's words. Both of them might seem like little devils. It could also be interpreted that he sees Yamori and Sumi as friends and not as women. Yep, it's more so a broad statement that's not thought through. That's the idea, which lines perfectly with the chapter. The chapter has so many words, and none of them are thought through. He's just saying things. He's not actually thinking any of it through. That's why the chapter is literally, the teaser for it was literally strong words. The thing that I realized later when I was reading Mute stuff is that right here, Kazuya says that's super direct. In Japanese, Kazuya says that's a strong word. This is the teaser. This is the teaser. I was wondering what strong words is. I didn't understand. Strong word is date. Right? Chizuru said she'd date him. That's a strong word. How does the chapter end? Right? Kazuya starts the chapter by hearing the word date. How does the chapter end? It ends with a single word from Sumi. Sumi doesn't say anything else but one word. Boo. Just boo. It ends as it began with a single word, a very strong single word that leaves a very lasting impression. And this makes you question, what dictates a strong word? What is a word if not backed up by the actions? In that same way, what are actions if they're not backed up by words? You can do something, and it doesn't mean shit if you don't explain it. Just as you can say a whole bunch of crap, and it doesn't mean anything if you don't back it up with action. It's literally the light and darkness motif all over again. You need the other in order to explain, in order for the other one to work. You can't just have one or the other. So Kazuya hears that Chizuru would date him from Minnie. But it's not backed up by any action. And it's presented to him based on a hypothetical. So is it even real? Chizuru said these words, is she dating him? She said that, but is she dating him? Right now? Technically, no. Except she's been dating him the whole fucking time. So what good is that word? That word is useless, because she's been dating him the whole fucking time. They've been on actual dates multiple times. So the word date that he heard from Minnie is fucking meaningless because it has nothing to do with love. You can date a person and not be in love with them. So the word is meaningless. In contrast, Sumi's word, boo, is effective. Why? She backed it up with the action of surprising him. Just as she surprises us. She's not trying to scare us. It's not meant to be scary, but it is surprising. It is surprising for Sumi's character, who does not speak. It has a whole other context. It's not meant to be scary, but it is surprising for a character who does not speak, who does not act like this. So it's weird. That is why this chapter is so incredibly effective. You have a single word that is seemingly meaningless, but for a character like Sumi, it's crazy. And then you have the word Chizuru said that she'd date Kazuya, but that word is fucking meaningless because it does not give him the one thing he actually wants, which is love and affection. He can date her. It doesn't mean you're going to get love. Even Minnie said that to him. Minnie literally says that to Kazuya. That like, I think it's not like from romantic love. I think it comes from a sense of responsibility and kindness and all that shit. But that's not the thing you want, is it? You want love. You want affection. So that word is meaningless. You are presented with an absolutely meaningless word that seems pretty big. Then you end the chapter with a seemingly meaningless word that is really big and has a lot of impact. Isn't that interesting? The chapter reverses itself at the end, bookending the very idea it is presented with. Strong words are literally the entire motif of this chapter. You're literally big promises, all talk. Big promises, all talk. Okay. Kazuya shows his thoughtful side of wearing Kazuya shows his thoughtful side by wearing the knitted hat that Sumi gave him. He describes the long journey from his false relationship with Chizuru, which began as a rental-girlfriend arrangement, to the truth as coming a long way. But conversely, it is also an expression of his resolve that there is no turning back now. So I guess it's meant to convey that we're at a turning point. And you gotta wonder, is Kazuya being thoughtful in wearing the hat? Why did he even put it on? You could say he's being thoughtful, but he never put it on prior, and he hasn't seen Sumi since, so why all of a sudden? Right? Is it like a thank you because he feels bad because he knows he hasn't actually spoken to her this whole time? If anything, you gotta wonder, does the hat reflect Kazuya's kindness or thoughtful side, or does it reflect the fact that he feels guilty? Because he hasn't spoken to her in ages. And then he sees this thing that he's had this whole time and never wore. And suddenly he puts it on. It's almost like a direct mirror to Ruka, where with Ruka, he feels bad, so he gives her he lets her buy the keychain for his key that he was never going to use. Just as he never ever put this hat on, but man, I haven't worn this thing this whole time. Maybe I should put it on just for Sumi, just for her to see it. Not because I actually want to wear it. Sumi-chan, dressed in gothic Lolita fashion, appears to be wearing drawers under her skirt, taking precautions against accidental panty shots. It seems there won't be any more fan service after this. Is the cherry pattern on her clothes a play on her name, Sakurazawa? The feather-like decorations on her shoes also evoke the image of an angel, right? All these things are very intentional, but then there's this contrast between black and white. Right? When you look at Sumi, look at Sumi's clothes. There's an intentional contrast between black and white, right? You have the white top and the black, and then the white underneath. It's a very consistent clothing pattern, right? It's a very, very consistent clothing pattern. Whereas Kazuya's clothing pattern is not. Also notice that the little feathers on her legs, they're black. It's like she's a black angel. A dark angel, not a white one, right? It's as if Sumi, it's meant to convey that Sumi is maturing, right? It's meant to convey the maturity of Sumi's character. She's growing up. She's getting older. Sumi's getting older, right? She's maturing. So while she dresses in the Lolita fashion, it's not scared anymore. It's very confident. There's a real sense of confidence to Sumi's character, and she's literally getting older, right? So Sumi wearing black reflects her age, while the clothes conveys like a sense of youngness and innocence. But she's not young and innocent anymore. She's grown up. So I think I think that might be the intention. I was soothed by Sumi-chan's 2-page spread. I felt that Sumi-chan, who's usually shy, had changed a lot by playing a peekaboo. It may be because her trust in Kazuya has increased, or it may have been a thoughtful gesture to dispel the heavy atmosphere. When Kazuya said, "You recognized me even though my hairstyle is different," Sumi replied, "I recognized you because of the hat." And I'm sure she was very happy. And does Sumi say that? No, Sumi never said that. Kazuya just realized. Okay. I'm sure she was very happy in the first place. It would have been hard to tell the difference in hairstyles if he's wearing a hat. But from Kazuya's words, I think that Kazuya usually pays attention to his hairstyle. Notice how Kazuya is the only one looking at his hair. Fruit tart. Perhaps it's a love consultation while eating a fruit tart. What kind of fruits approaches will be placed on the tart based called tart Chizuru? Tart based called Chizuru? Well, Sumi loves sweets, so them eating a fruit tart is interesting because it's going to lean into that element of sweetness. It's giving, when you read fruit tart, you think, oh, next chapter is going to be sweet. It's going to be so sweet, but I think that's going to be contrasted by sourness. There's going to be a sour element to next chapter, to contrast that sweetness, right? Because that's the whole thing. Sumi's an angel. Sumi's wonderful, but then there's going to be something a little uncomfortable underneath that, and I think this is going to be intentional. Sumi is kind of like a bona fide rental girlfriend now, right? She's a bona fide rental girlfriend now. She knows what the fuck she's doing. So I think next chapter will lean into that adult uncomfortability, that Sumi is much more mature now and more in control. Kazuya is not the one in control of this situation. Sumi is, because she's been doing this for so long. So whereas Kazuya was the one in control in their dynamic prior, he's not in control anymore. And he's willingly giving up control and letting her be control, and it scares him. I think next chapter is going to be, it's literally meant to, it's going to look sweet, but there's going to be a dark undertone. And I think that's going to be intentional. It's a sort of sweet that brings Sumi-chan to mind. I love the lyrics of 2 years ago. I wonder if the cherries are in season the time of the year or the original story. I reckon there'd be cherries on the fruit tart too. It's not just a pattern on the clothes. The bag of cherries shaped too, isn't it? Yeah, there's more to the entire cherry motif, and we kind of got into that in last stream. They must be in season then. I hadn't realized the bag was shaped like a cherry. I didn't think it was a strange shape though. Yeah, there's an entire cherry-shaped motif. Okay, let's go to Reddit. Oh, I gotta check. Oh, damn it. Okay, 418. Oh, someone wanted me to check something. They sent it to me on Reddit. I should check it. It was in manga. Okay. Give me a sec. Let me turn on the lights. So G-Ton, G, I'm just gonna say G. G over here says, "Hey Faye, I'm also behind on the series discussion threads, and I'm only now getting around to reading the one about chapter 415. I came across a comment by Jojo Maniacal that I found really interesting. So if there's some time during the next stream, I'd recommend checking it out. Just a heads up, it's pretty long. It might be a groundbreaking analysis. It might not be great groundbreaking analysis, since I don't think it says anything you haven't already brought up in these streams, but it does cover a lot of points that ties them together really well. I really like the way the user writes, and if I remember correctly, you've enjoyed some of their comments recently too. Yeah, I've been talking to them here and there. We've disagreed on stuff, but we've come to like some interesting realizations in talking to each other. Jojo is very fun to talk to because like I don't feel like we're like fighting about what we're talking about. We're just talking about it, which is much more refreshing. Like, for instance, when I'm on Twitter and I'm talking to Briff, the Spanish user who talks about Rent a Girlfriend, it feels like half the time I'm fucking fighting him, which is really frustrating. I really don't like talking like that. It stresses me the fuck out. I have like a little bit of confrontation anxiety, so like it does kind of stress me out when I'm talking to someone like that. But with Jojo, it's a lot more chill. Speaking of which, I know Jojo told me what they were referring to when they were talking about a thing earlier, so I have to go check their comment. I never got a chance to. I also haven't been reading some of the things that have been sent to me. Oh boy. Yeah, there's a lot I have not been reading. I'm really behind on shit. Like there's this person who follows the channel who emails me. I'm sorry, I haven't been reading some of your stuff. I just haven't had a chance. So I can try going through them on my own time and then just maybe comment on them on here, or I can try reading them here. One thing I want to take away from this before starting is that the simulations are useful even if they are fundamentally a lie. Correct. Kazuya was a dreamer. Well, but that's the thing. Kazuya doesn't view them as useful, does he? Isn't that fascinating? He's like, it could never happen. Right? His reaction to 415 when the simulation doesn't do the thing that he wants, he's like, that could never happen. That's bullshit. That's not real. That's impossible. He says it's literally impossible. It's not. Anyways, let's continue. Kazuya was a dreamer. Well, he still is a dreamer. He just doesn't believe in the dreams anymore. Right? He has the dreams. He just doesn't believe in them. Chizuru fundamentally broke a key aspect of his faith in dreams, a key aspect of who Kazuya is as a person. So it's... Did Chizuru break that? Like... I always raise that question. Like I will wonder about this. Let's play a devil advocate a little bit here. Did Chizuru actually break that, or didn't she? I would say yes and no. What do I mean by this? On one aspect, yes, her aspects in some ways robbed him of his dreamer persona. On the other hand, he in part did that to himself. Because he was so busy trying to confess, he never even looked at what was happening. So she didn't really rob him of a dream. And then she seemingly revived that dream when everyone else destroyed it. Because Chizuru's entire goal was to protect the dream and ended up destroying it. And then she saves it in the last second. So in that sense, I can kind of get... I just don't like the idea of the blame being solely on her. Right? A part of it is on Kazuya himself. He chose to stop dreaming in many ways. He chose to hinge completely everything on his dream without really thinking it through. And that entire sequence where he goes to Chizuru in Hawaiians to confess to her is literally that. He's not thinking it through. He's just trying to confess. And that's why I kind of just disagree with the idea that it's just Chizuru who broke it. He broke it himself in many ways. Let's continue. So separate to start the chapter about simulations with the body's version of a simulation of a dream. So I don't get this, because the whole point of the opening page is that it's meant to contrast Mami. Intentionally so. It's a direct callback. So for chapter 415, this is what he's referring to. The opening page is a direct callback to chapter 1. What do I mean by this? Kazuya has a dream about Chizuru where she accepts him. Okay, and Chizuru's dressed in her idealized way, and there's an intentional callback to when Kazuya was crying in Hawaiians. This is like frame for frame, the exact same shot. Let me pull it up. Okay, chapter 224. This is where this is from. Okay, now let's pull up that same shot he was just talking about. Okay, look at Kazuya here and look at Kazuya here. It's shot for shot the same thing. Like, without question, it's the same thing. It's almost like Kazuya's having this dream of being accepted by Chizuru intentionally to contrast who? Mami. As if it was always her who broke the dream. It wasn't Chizuru. His idealized image of Chizuru broke the dream because he stopped looking at her like a real fucking person and just kept seeing the dream girl. So he sees this dream girl accepting him, not the real thing. He sees Dream Chizuru accepting him, not the real thing. But he takes inspiration from the real her. Right, she's dressed in her idealized clothes, but he takes inspiration from the real her real smile. That's what's fascinating about this entire sequence, is that it really makes you question who actually broke Kazuya's dreamer. Who actually broke Kazuya's fantasy element, the part of him that dreams? Was it Chizuru or was it Mami? Because Chizuru only ever ran away because of Mami. Chizuru took accountability for the pain she caused him. She did do that action in the end regardless, so she has an element of responsibility to the pain she caused him. Absolutely. But this is why I don't like blaming Chizuru, because who is the one who actually made her run away? Who was the one that was blackmailing her? Who was the one who was pressuring her? Mami. Mami pulled her one way, Kazuya pulled her in another way. So, naturally, the idealized image of Chizuru that Kazuya dreams and fantasizes about is broken. Did Chizuru actually break that? Or was it Mami? And the chapter is literally intentionally showing you this to make you question it. Now, there's another aspect that I was going to get into that I didn't show. I do apologize. Let me pull that up again. So, this is intentionally paralleled by this. Look at their smiles. Look at their smiles. Look at how similar they look. Look at how similar their smiles look. But look at the difference. You see Mami's hands. You don't see Chizuru's hands. You're not seeing the full picture. You're seeing what you want to see. Okay? And the fact that in chapter 416, we are intentionally shown this same exact shot of Mami right here. The fact that Reiji goes out of his way to show this smile in the final part of the school bag sequence as a mirror to Chizuru's smile in the earlier chapter is no coincidence. He's literally trying to make you question, who's the one who actually broke Kazuya's dreamer? Was it Chizuru or was it Mami? Who's the one who actually hurt him? Chizuru may have taken the action, but who actually pulled the fucking trigger? Right? Because Mami was the one that first hurt him, and Mami is the reason Hawaiians even happened. Was that actually Chizuru? Sorry, I didn't mean to get into that. It's just, this is literally how my discussions with JoJo tend to go. I'm not gonna, this is usually how our discussions tend to go, where like, I start reading what he says, and I'm like, I'm already disagreeing, bro, I'm sorry. I'm already disagreeing, bro, I'm sorry. This dream is short and sweet and simple, as Chizuru is saying she doesn't care about Ruka, making him come, and then she loves him. It took me some time to come down on if this is a dream, if this dream is the truth or a lie. What does that mean? It's a lie, it's a dream. It's a lie that reflects the truth that Kazuya wishes to be accepted. I suspected it was the truth right away because what Chizuru says here sounds too good to be true, but based on how she'd likely view the situation with Ruka, when explained properly, I'm pretty sure she'd defend Kazuya. Chizuru is good at those sorts of things, but I want to be sure I was not misreading this. Well, it sounds too good to be true, but you're missing the point. It's not about Chizuru. Unfortunately, there's a sad truth to this. Chizuru doesn't matter in this picture. Chizuru does not matter in this picture because what this is actually showing you is what Kazuya wants, not what Chizuru herself is doing. It reflects an element of reality. You're correct. That, yeah, this reflects a bit of a truth. Chizuru would absolutely fucking defend him. She wouldn't say it like that. She absolutely would not fucking say it like that. But she would also be hurt. She would be hurt that this even happened because in many ways she might blame herself. She would defend him, but this is more about Kazuya himself. It's his blind delusion of wanting to be accepted and him not coming to terms with that. There's some key aspects to show that this is supposed to represent the truth of what Chizuru would say on this page. First, notice what Chizuru is wearing in the dream. It is the dress she wore in her second rental date in chapter 1. And this is the first time Kazuya saw the real Mizuhara, when Chizuru dropped her perfect girlfriend act to scold him for giving her a lousy review after working so hard to meet his preferences with the fish facts. Well, no, because that's... Kazuya always thinks of that. particular dress. It's meant to reflect, because what was that dress before that point? Right? Reiji, no. I think you're kind of missing the point of the dress. In my opinion, I think you're kind of missing the point of the dress. You're correct in your assessment, but not in this situation. What do I mean? Reiji is showing that dress very particularly because right after the facade drops, what Reiji is saying is that all Kazuya is seeing right now is, what was it like at first? At first, what was the point of this dress and everything that Chizuru did? It was to be exactly what he wanted, the ideal girlfriend. That dress represents the ideal girlfriend, not the drop of it. But rather, the drop of it, Chizuru dropping the facade, is the foreshadowing. The dress merely existing is alluding to you what's going to fucking happen. That's why that dress is shown in these particular sequences. It's to allude to how that image, that idealization is going to drop. But the dress represents the idealization, not the fact that it was going to, not the fact that it represents the real Chizuru. It absolutely does not represent the real Chizuru. It represents a part of the real Chizuru, not all of her. That's why, for instance, in the dream, she doesn't have the rental braid. In the dream, Chizuru does not have the rental braid, which is probably why you're going to say next, that's why I think it represents the real Chizuru. It's literally reality and fiction blending, and you can't tell them apart. Just as you can't tell apart the lies and the truth anymore. It's all blended together. You're blind. You have no perspective. That is what the point of that dream is. The dream blends reality and fiction. That is what dreams are. Right? Do dreams not matter because they're just in your head? No, because the dream could reflect something you fear or you want. Therefore, there is a truth to a dream, but it is fiction. That is why it's a dream. The dream is blending reality and fiction, because Chizuru doesn't have the rental braid, but she is wearing the idealized dress. Chizuru might do something like this, but that's not necessarily the real her. Because it isn't. But it is an aspect of the real her that Kazuya has seen, but also a fictional aspect of her that his mind is projecting to him. Second, Kazuya's refusal to believe that this is the truth, just like he cannot believe that Mami copied his schedule because she clearly likes him, even though the truth is said about as plainly as possible to him. Third is what simulations are. They are lies that are trying to be as close to possible to the truth. The simulation is attempting to portray reality. What's at odds with the dreams, however, isn't Chizuru's words or Kazuya himself. He's wearing a swimsuit while Chizuru is wearing a dress, but they are nowhere near a pool or the ocean in the dream. Kazuya is out of sync with himself even in his own dreams. Right, so there is a truth in the dream. And what is the dream doing? It's trying to come as close as possible to reality. The reality Kazuya desires, because it has been conditioned. What is a simulation? A simulation essentially plays out these things that you've done multiple times in the past to become aware of what could possibly go wrong. So the dream is a mirror to the simulation, but a kind of inverse, if you will, where the dream is trying to give you exactly what you want, because that's what you want deep down. And the dream is telling you, hey, this could happen, right? This could happen. Isn't this what you want? But no. Is it good? Should I start reading the manga? The manga is fucking fantastic, but look, please understand, this is not a manga that is like gonna give you what you want right away. This is a manga that is slow and methodical and requires you to think a little bit. It needs you to reread a little bit. There's also a lot of translation issues. So bear in mind, you're not gonna get like a perfect manga, and as long as you kind of remove your insane expectations of the rom-com medium, or maybe look at it from the perspective that this manga is criticizing the rom-com medium, you might really appreciate this manga. The big thing is, please don't listen to the internet. They're fucking stupid. If you look up videos like trying to talk about this manga, they're fucking idiots. They have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. And I'm not saying this because I'm some condescending bitch who thinks it's smarter than everyone else. I'm saying this because they straight up fucking lie. like I can actually factually disprove them. In fact, I have an entire playlist series called Why You Hate Rent a Girlfriend. Feel free to watch that, where I like literally criticize and call these people out, or like they're literally making shit up that's not even real in the manga. Anyways, feel free to give the manga a shot. I hope you enjoy it. If you can empathize with the characters and empathize with the story, you might like this a lot. Anyways, they are lies trying to be as close to reality as possible. Okay, yeah, we said this. After the dream, so we did agree that Kazuya is out of sync with himself, even in his own dream. Yeah, so we did agree to that. That's something I said too. After the dream, we have Kazuya waking up and drowning in his guilt regarding the situation with Ruka. Random passerbys dismissively proclaim that a person like him does not belong on the road. He tries to hide this from the public by taking his guilt into the bathroom. But even here, one of the passerbys from before recognizes his agony. Kazuya can't hide from the public condemnation of his guilt, a guilt that isn't even his fault. But notice that he also then says he doesn't belong on the road himself. He's internalizing the public's shallow view of his sexual assault as something that is his internal failing. Yeah, and then think about it from another perspective. I talked about this too when we were talking about chapter 415. The public are literally trapped in their own simulation, in their own matrix. We all are in some ways, where basically what we do is that we're so busy looking at the world the way we want to look at the world that we don't see other characters. We don't see other people. And that's pretty much the whole point of the passerbys, is that they're so busy judging Kazuya, none of them actually try to help him. If you read that chapter, this is something you'll notice immediately. Like, all these passerbys that are judging him, none of them are actually, like, trying to help him. They're just like, you shouldn't be on the road. Cool. Do you want to do something about that? Maybe he doesn't have a fucking choice. Do you want to do something about that? Nope. Yeah, okay, they're just judge him and leave him alone, right? Literally a horrible thing to fucking do. You don't try to help him. You don't try to give him advice. You don't listen to him. Nothing. People are all trapped in their own simulations and matrices, and that's literally kind of what the chapter's somewhat trying to say. Kazuya is trapped in his own simulation, which is literally the dream. In some ways, the dream is his simulation, his deepest desire. And Mami is trapped in a simulation. The people around Kazuya are trapped in a simulation. You both see how a simulation can be good and help you learn something, but also how a simulation can be a trap. In the midst of this agony, though, is one of the most incredible panels in all of Kanokari. Kazuya looks down and says, "Nothing feels worse than hating yourself." And he then has a flashback to chapter 383, which just says, "If I were you, I'd hate someone like me." It's everything all at once. Foreshadowing, connection, breakthrough, thematic thesis, eureka, and it begs the question, what was Chizuru going through for her to feel the same way that Kazuya does now? Everything I just explained is a microcosm of the exact turmoil that Chizuru went through. It hints at the idea that Chizuru is carrying a guilt that, if said aloud, most people would just judge as harshly as the crowd judges Kazuya now. This whole arc with the goals has been so blatantly pointless. It was subtext before the Kazuya didn't need to become a better man for Chizuru, but became literal text in chapter 314 and chapter 413 and 414. If the magic of Kazuya is that he can do something completely pointless and still end up succeeding in the end. Chapter 13. This moment is the start of the needed internal change for Kazuya. Remember it, cherish it. But there is no time to reflect on the most crucial moment, because just before Kazuya can cement the epiphany, he is whisked away to driving class with Mami. Which is, by the way, the fucking point. What do I mean by this? That's always been the fucking point. Kazuya has no time to stop and think about anything that he's feeling or experiencing or anything, really. And no better moment reflects that than this. Kazuya stops and he realizes in the date they haven't held hands once. Huh. Does Kazuya have good character development? What do you define as good character development? No, seriously. What is good character development for you? Because, to me, good character development is both progress and regression. A character regressing is not a bad thing. It is a fantastic thing, if you know what the fuck you're doing. And this character has both progress and regression. Right now, he has completely lost who the fuck he is. But this is a crucial to the theme of the story, where it's about becoming an adult and learning who the fuck you are and what the hell you want. So, yes, Kazuya has amazing character development. Like God tier. In fact, all of the characters do. All of the characters in this story have like God tier level developments. Where it's not just ups and downs, it's like they go back, they go forward, they make similar mistakes, they do all sorts of things. The progression of this story is fucking incredible, honestly. But people don't like it because they don't like how not linear it is. Think of this story as more of a spiral, where you know how a spiral works. When you loop, it looks like you went to the same spot, but you didn't. It just looks the same. It's different. It just looks similar. It's not the fucking same. And that's pretty much kind of this story. It's like it essentially functions like a spiral. Just as things spiral out of control in certain aspects of the story, or they can spiral positively upwards. There's positive spirals, there's negative spirals, and that's pretty much how the story is structured. That's why Kazuya wears a spiral shirt. That's the whole idea. Because the whole point of a spiral is that it represents life. So literally, the spiral is life. Because life is like a spiral. There is a beginning and there's an end, but it looks like it's looping at certain points. But there is no loop. There's only the end and the beginning. It just looks the same. It's not the same. And there's a whole thematic idea at play here. Anyways, so Kazuya says right here when he realizes they had not held hands the entire fucking date, which is like, wow, dude, you're fucking up. Still, that didn't mean I won Mizuhara over or that the date was a success, but that was enough to make me really happy. I was happy I didn't hold her hand. What the fuck are you on about, bro? I had never thought I'd be so happy not to hold hands with her. I felt pretty dumb about it all, but I let it sink in for all about 2 seconds, and she grabs his hand. Okay, what happened here? He didn't process what the fuck just happened. He had no time to process or think about this. I only watched season 1, should the anime before the jump on the manga. I recommend you read the manga from the get-go, from the beginning. The simple reason is that the anime, the best way I can describe the anime is that it's not a bad adaptation, but it has a lot of extreme depictions of the characters. You're essentially supposed to watch the anime and read the manga in tandem. I think that's in many ways how the anime is designed. The anime is not designed to replace the manga. It literally can't. It's designed to essentially complement it. For instance, there are things that are added, like in season 3, there's a scene that's particularly added that's not present in the manga that Reiji himself, the writer, directly added. And it works. It complements the story and it makes a lot of fucking sense. But I really recommend you read the manga because there is so much nuance in the manga that the anime just does not capture at all. In particular, I think it fucks up Kazuya's character quite a lot. I think the anime has a tendency to really fuck up Kazuya's character, like a lot. It makes him way worse than he actually is. It's something that's like all the way down to the character design. I actually think Kazuya's character design in the anime is not as good as the manga. There are times where it is drawn well, fucking absolutely, but a lot of it is not handled well at all. It does not show the beauty of Kazuya's character. So much of it is trimmed down in favor of the depiction of the female characters and basically selling them as waifus, which is kind of sad because the whole point of this story is that they're all criticisms of particular tropes and waifus. Basically, think of it like this. Rent-A-Girlfriend uses tropes to criticize tropes. So Chizuru, it looks like a traditional tsundere. She's anything but a tsundere. She is literally a criticism of a tsundere. Everything about Chizuru criticizes tsunderes and waifu culture as a whole. She's literally works a job where she literally presents herself as the ideal girlfriend to sell you love. Isn't that literally what a waifu is? Isn't that straight up what a waifu is? They literally present themselves in a particular way. They present these female characters in a particular way that sells you the idea of something you desire and like. And yet it is not real. So when Chizuru gets mad at him in episode 1, it is literally her saying, I am not a waifu. I am not just some fucking AI bullshit. I'm a real goddamn person. Shut the fuck up. You don't get to treat me like this. That is literally the whole point of that opening sequence. She is a fucking person. You don't get to just treat her like this. And that is why that scene is so powerful. And yes, it is an allegory for sex work. Fucking absolutely. In fact, Reiji outright compares the two. Like, it's not even fucking subtle. And yes, it's the same thing. It's the same way people dehumanize sex workers. That, like, they're just dolls. They're not fucking people. They're fucking people too. Shut the hell up. Anyways, that's a whole other topic we'll get into another time. We gotta keep reading this. Let's see. The moment is the start of the needed internal change for Kazuya. Remember, cherish it, but there's no time to reflect. Yeah, so as I was saying, no time to reflect. That is the whole point. We're not getting time to think about things. We're not processing what the fuck is happening in the story. Oh, Mami, you have come a long way in a short amount of time. And yet, in many ways, she also has not. For every change Mami has had, she's also stagnated. The irony of Hawaiians is that it broke Chizuru and Kazuya, but it healed everyone else. No. Every single character is broken. There's no character that is healed. Every single character is broken. That is the whole point. That is literally the entire point. Kazuya's family, Kazuya's friends, they don't know how to move forward. They don't know how to properly support Kazuya. They are lost just as much as Kazuya is. All right. Every single character in this story right now is lost, including Mami, including Ruka. Ruka is not healed. She's actually more broken than she has ever been. Mami is not healed. Mami is trying to heal and she doesn't know how. Because all Mami has ever known is her abusive fucking family. Mami doesn't know how to fucking heal. That's the whole visual symbolism of chapter 416. Is that look at this entire sequence. Let's look at this entire sequence. Visually, what is going on when Mami is in the car? What is going on when Mami's in the car? It is just darkness. You're in darkness, and the light is outside. You're trapped in darkness. You don't know how to see the light. All you have ever known is darkness. So you don't know how to look at the light. That is the point of Mami's character. She's literally trapped in shadows. She doesn't... It's the allegory of the cave. It's Plato's cave. All Mami has ever known is the shadows. She doesn't know what the fuck she's looking at. So she doesn't know how to change. She's not healing. Mami has not healed. She wants to heal. She wants to change and doesn't know how. Because that's all she has ever known. So I kind of disagree with that, actually. I don't believe everyone healed. No. Every single character broke. Every single character broke. Mami is broken. Kazuya's family's broken. Kibe is broken. Minnie is broken. Minnie wasn't even there and she's fucking broken. If anything, Kazuya broke Minnie more in interacting with her because he's so broken. Which, by the way, let me share something with you guys. I vividly remember when I was doing therapy, there was a point where I had some very unhealthy relationships with some people around me. And they were really close friends. I really cared about them. But it was not healthy. And the thing is, my therapist literally told me, when you're around toxic people, you become toxic too. And I think that's such a good explanation of how Kazuya has, in many ways, warped Minnie into becoming toxic, just as Minnie, in many ways, has warped him into becoming toxic. They fueled each other's terrible tendencies, becoming the worst parts of themselves. Minnie definitely became a worse person in interacting with Kazuya so much and being so involved in his life and not being able to call him out and not knowing who she personally is. In that same way, Minnie being an enabler herself, literally, not just literally like talking to Kazuya, but actually demanding he do things, demanding a certain form of change from him, enables his worst tendencies, in turn making him more toxic. Minnie has absolutely done that. So even characters who weren't necessarily toxic prior, or at least had toxic tendencies but didn't do like horrible things, became worse. That is also the point. Mami's ideology has turned her into a nihilist, so much so that she schemed to destroy love wherever it blossomed as a way to prove its inherent superficiality. In the end, though, it was Chizuru and Kazuya's act that exposed just how superficial Mami's ideology truly was. She didn't really believe that love was a lie. She is a broken girl that was afraid to believe that things with Kazuya could be real, and was hurt when he seemingly moved on so fast. And now she's resolved herself to face it. No, she hasn't. And it kind of makes me sad. No one seems to see that. She hasn't resolved anything. She's still trapped in an illusion. She is in her own simulation. You tricked yourself into thinking you're going to face it. You're not. And no better way describes this than when I was talking to Mute, and he was talking about how Mami was talking. So in Japanese, every single thing Mami says is impersonal. So for instance, in the car ride here, or when they're in the car here in the very end, in Japanese here, when Mami doesn't say something like, "Can we stay like this just a little longer?" She says it in a way in Japanese that almost leaves the choice completely up to Kazuya. This almost insinuates something positive. Oh, I want to be... like, in English, this insinuates, I want to be with you a little more. In Japanese, that insinuation is not there. She is a lot more passive, just leaving it completely up to Kazuya, which makes a lot of sense when you realize what Mami said in regards to job hunting, where she's like, I wish they would tell me who I am. I don't want to tell them that. I wish they could tell me who I am. She's literally removing herself from the equation. She doesn't want a sense of self. She doesn't know who she is. What Reiji is trying to highlight to you is that Mami has resolved nothing. She doesn't actually want to face anything. She gives you the illusion she wants to face it. She's not actually making real change. And that's why the parallel to Chizuru in the past is a little similar, where Chizuru was a bit of a coward in the past, where she wanted to face something, but she was fucking terrified to and couldn't. With Chizuru, you can understand. Chizuru informs Mami. With Chizuru, you understood at the time the reason Chizuru was being a bit of a coward, the reason she was a little afraid at the time, that she couldn't face Kazuya at the time, was because she just lost her only fucking relative. And she could lose him too. And she's terrified. Someone she lost, someone very dear and important to her, just fucking died. So she's terrified of losing him too. You know, she doesn't want to fuck this up either. And she blames herself for her grandmother. So a lot of her choices were deeply rooted in guilt. Now let's look at Mami. Mami being so passive, leaving it so much up to Kazuya, but seemingly hugging him and touching him and doing all this stuff, shows you the exact same thing. Mami actually feels incredibly guilty about Hawaiians, and she doesn't want to ruin it. So she wants Kazuya to define what she feels, because that way she can be absolved of her guilt. Kazuya started the chapter wanting to be absolved of his guilt and forgiven. Suddenly, Mami wants to stay in the car with him too? And she did something horrible to him too? It's almost like Mami is her own simulation of wanting to be forgiven and accepted exactly like Kazuya does. But she's not being honest about the truth. She's mixing little things that seem to align with the truth. She's trapped in her own simulation. Mami's not facing anything. Mami looks at Kazuya, right? Look at how Mami looks at Kazuya. Mami looks at Kazuya. She doesn't actually see him, right? She looks at him, but both of them are in shadows. Neither sees the other. Nobody sees the other person. Nobody actually looks at them. Even here, she doesn't see the full truth. She is illuminated because she's like, okay, he actually still likes Chizuru, but she's still in shadows. Even here, what's happening in this spread, you don't see them. They're in the back of the car. They're in a corner. They're not visible to you. It's like you're missing context. There's something wrong with this picture. It is an incomplete picture. Okay. She didn't face it at all once. She didn't face it at all once, mind you. In fact, she started out quite dismally when she met with Kazuya afterwards, only to leave without saying anything. Again, that was already highlighting to you. She's not going to face anything. However, each successive interaction with Kazuya brought her closer and closer to accepting her feelings for him. And her feelings are built on a lie. She's accepting a lie. She's deluding herself. She's in the Matrix. She picked the blue pill. I want to point out that what I think is the deliberate parallel here between how Mami faces her feelings versus how Chizuru faces her feelings. Though Chizuru and Mami start out similarly in their reluctance to accept their feelings for Kazuya, Mami is able to accept it more quickly and more directly, making advances in her relationship with Kazuya. More specifically, Mami notices misunderstandings quickly and is looking to rectify them quickly. It's a level, but the things she's noticing are not accurate. So let me keep reading what he says. It's a level of care and understanding that Chizuru doesn't have with Kazuya. No. Chizuru absolutely has this. If anything, Chizuru actually corrects the correct thing. Mami corrects the wrong thing. Case in point. Mami sees Kazuya crying earlier. And she says, do you think it's strange that we're together a lot? No, not really. I actually do think that's strange. I copied your schedule, so it's not so lonely, right? that's not the it's Kazuya isn't lonely. Not like this. She doesn't actually see him. She admitted that she copied his schedule. But it's not, she doesn't understand why he was feeling the way he was feeling. And that it is her fucking fault that he's feeling this way. Do you see the problem? She's not correcting or rectifying anything. She's deluding herself that she is. Chizuru actually did correct things. Went out of her way to correct things. Right now she isn't, abso-fucking-lutely. Right now she isn't. Because she thought she understands. She doesn't understand. But Chizuru actually will correct the thing when she knows. However, Kazuya says nothing to her, so she has no way of knowing. Mami, in contrast, just corrects what she assumes to be the problem. But it isn't. Okay. It's a level of... Okay, I just don't agree with that Chizuru doesn't have that understanding. I think Chizuru and Sumi have the best communication and understanding out of everybody in the story. But not for Chizuru's lack of trying. They lived together for a whole month, but they could never get the kind of understanding that Mami seems to have gone almost immediately. And Mami's understanding is a fucking lie. And the reason they couldn't come to an understanding when they were living together is because that their foundation was a lie. That was the problem. And Chizuru recognized their foundation was a lie and it was broken. And that's why she couldn't come to a solution. So she's trying to make a real foundation for them. And we can't just put the difference as Chizuru is carrying guilt and that prevents her. Mami's carrying guilt above her part in Hawaiians too. Exactly, you're missing the point. She's acting out of guilt and she doesn't actually understand what the fuck she's doing. Ironically, I think what you're doing, that I think Reiji realizes, that I just noticed right now, is that I think what's happening is that we sympathize a lot more with Mami when she's not the villain. Not realizing we're making the same exact mistake as we did in Hawaiians. You're listening to a victim. This is like reading Chainsaw Man and agreeing with Denji. This is literally what this is. This is like reading Chainsaw Man and agreeing with Denji. Not realizing you're listening to an addict. You are listening to a victim who thinks they know what's right. You don't see the problem in front of you. Because Mami is coming to a solution you agree with. And because Mami looks like she's learning, looks like she's changing, you can't help but want to side with her, not realizing she's not actually changing. Nor is she actually overcoming any of her problems. In fact, she's deluding herself. Just as Denji deluded himself into wanting Chainsaw Man. Not realizing what he actually wants is affection, and never being able to realize this because he's trapped. Because he has no support system, just as Mami has no support system. If anything, I would say Mami is a perfect comparison to Denji, not Kazuya. Kazuya has support. Kazuya has people. He isolates from them. Kazuya has all these things. He isolates from them. That's the difference, I think, between Kazuya and Denji and Mami and Denji. Mami is pretty much Denji. Mami is pretty much him. She's literally trapped in a cycle. She can't escape. She's been conditioned and doesn't fucking know how. And she's surrounded by terrible influence. Kazuya has terrible influence, but he chooses to willingly go to terrible influence. He is an addict. He is a victim. But Kazuya also chooses it in many ways. And he has to realize he's choosing this. Oh, Lord. Oh, this is fucking long. Oh boy. Let's keep going. Okay. I've noticed in this gauntlet of the other girls in Kazuya's life is that they are fulfilling an aspect that he loves about Chizuru better than Chizuru does. Individually, no one beating Chizuru, but as an amalgamation, they form someone who puts a spotlight on all the ways Chizuru fell short in the relationship with Kazuya. The only one we haven't seen yet is Sumi, but based on how she comes to the rescue before, I think we can assume she'll be the person who can listen the best, the person who can accept Kazuya's guilt and faults at best. I think what this is all going to make you realize is how Chizuru has done this better than every other girl in every other way. But how in many ways she's currently fucking up. I think we're kind of missing the point. Every other girl has presented to you something that you think you want, but you don't actually want. So, for instance, Ruka does the sexual thing a lot better than Chizuru, except it's sexual assault. Mami does the emotional thing seemingly better than Chizuru, coming to solutions and making decisions quicker than Chizuru, but her decisions are fucking lies. They're built on nonsense that she's convinced herself is the truth. Therefore, who's actually making a better decision? Someone who thought it through like Chizuru, or someone who didn't think it through like Mami? Because let's play Mami's whole thing out. She gets with Kazuya, everything works out. What about her dad, who's going to threaten him just like he threatened Toru? What's your plan for that? Do you have a plan for that? Your dad is going to pull the bullshit again. He's going to do it, and you fucking know it. Not even considering how this might hurt Kazuya. She's so busy being in love, she never even processes this. Chizuru, in contrast, is maybe too busy thinking about that. Maybe that, you could say that's maybe the mistake. Chizuru is too busy thinking about the right thing to do for Kazuya. She's so busy trying to do right by Kazuya, she's doing the wrong thing. The other characters, none of them are thinking of what's right for him, in turn giving you the result you deeply want. Do you see the issue? Chizuru is focusing too much on Kazuya's happiness that she's ignoring she's ignoring the signs she's unable to see the signs that are in front of her. Because she's so busy trapped in her guilt and trying to make him happy that she doesn't see how she's not doing the right thing. And in turn, pushing him away to get hurt by all these other girls. Whereas these girls seemingly are giving you what you want. But you don't see things clearly. Sumi, I think, you're going to think Sumi's going to save the day. She's not. Sumi is going to drop Kazuya into the fucking abyss because he's going to realize, he's been in the wrong the whole time. And that's, she's not going to save him from his guilt and his faults. And if anything, I think it's going to take his guilt to, it's going to actually make his guilt real. So far, Kazuya has not come to terms with the fact that he feels guilty. He feels it, but he removes it from his mind constantly. Sumi is gonna actually nail that in. Oh no, you're a bad person. I think this is what this is gonna do. It's like, oh no, Kazuya, you're a bad person. You've done horrible things, dude. I think that's what Sumi's gonna end up ultimately doing, and I don't know how, but it will be. She's gonna show him darkness in order for him to recognize the light that he had. And how he's been terrible to Chizuru. Anyways. In the car class, Kazuya goes first, and he remarks on how impressed he is that the graphics of the simulation being closer to reality than he expected. But the ends the thought that I was thinking about how it's like a game. A little girl jumps out, and he hits her with the car. The girl looks a little like Chizuru we saw in chapter 364, which I think is very intentional. Kazuya is definitely hurting little kid Chizuru. Kazuya yells that it was impossible to prevent that, and the instructor says you could have seen it coming if you noticed the girl's little legs sticking out just before. However, we can see what he sees right before, and there's no legs sticking out. It's just the semi-truck obstructing the view. But that's the thing. You're seeing it from Kazuya's eyes. Aren't you? Aren't you also trapped in your own simulation? You're seeing it from Kazuya's eyes. Maybe that was there, and you just can't see it because you're seeing it from Kazuya's eyes. When it's Mami's turn to do the simulation, she's able to easily stop the car before hitting the little girl, and the teacher praises her for her good reaction speed. But she didn't react. She anticipated what she saw happen before. The simulation did its job, though. It let us act a situation that we couldn't do in real life, and through someone else's mistake, Mami's able to learn what to watch out for. Another connection to the idea that this little girl is Chizuru is that Kazuya literally asks, "Where are her parents?" hitting us over the head with the idea that, Chizuru might do something unexpected and recklessly that will cause Kazuya to accidentally harm her. Now, what could have Kazuya done to prevent this from happening without the benefit of hindsight that Mami gets. Chapter 412, when Kazuya is driving... So this is kind of interesting. I do agree with this. This is kind of interesting. In Chapter 412, when Kazuya is driving for real, he gets praised for his performance. So what if this mindset in which he approached the simulation that is the problem? He treated a simulation as a game when he should have treated it as real. Ooh. Ooh. Ooh, good job. Good job. Right before the car class, Mami comes out and answers a question that Kazuya couldn't figure out. She copied his schedule so that he wouldn't be lonely. She wants to spend the time with him and went out of her way to make sure that happened. She then cleared up the ambiguity behind that without needing Kazuya to probe for the information on his own. This is a direct contrast to his interactions with Chizuru during the cohabitation. Chizuru wants Kazuya to ask for the information before she gives it. No, she's cleared stuff up without him saying anything, like multiple fucking times. So, for instance, here we go. Here, I have a great fucking example. I have a fantastic fucking example. In chapter 200 and... Let me double check. 277. Okay, yep, 277. Chizuru comes up to Kazuya and asks him, hey, want to go shopping? Okay. And she says, she gives an excuse. Delivery costs money, but a man in his pair of hands would help a lot. She lies, so he'll come with her, right? So they go on the thing, right? They go later. And something happens here. They get the TV. That's where they were going out. They were going out to get a TV. They get the TV. And Chizuru ends up shipping it. Let's get it delivered. So Kazuya has no purpose being here whatsoever, right? She gave him a purpose, and now the purpose is meaningless, right? He has no purpose being here whatsoever, and he thinks I've totally turned into one of a guy tagging along in a girl's shopping adventure. My existence no longer has meaning. Pretty fucked up that he thinks this way. Chizuru turns around, sees him looking like that, realizes what just happened, instantly clears up. What are you doing there? Come on, let's go. You belong. Instantly, he belongs. She doesn't need to clear up anything. She clears up the misunderstanding she herself caused. She doesn't need to say a whole bunch of words to clear up her feelings. She just says, hey, oh, come on. You're still welcome. It doesn't matter. I wanted you here. I want you here. There's no issue. Should I even be right here? She literally says, yeah, you should. I wanted you here. Now, does she say that outright? I don't think so. I will admit that. She doesn't say it outright, but that's literally what she's conveying to him. Come on. You still belong. Here's another instance. This one is smaller, but I think it still ultimately serves the purpose that I was talking about. Oops, wrong thing. Chizuru comes up to Kazuya, and she asks him, have you been using body wash? Huh? Body wash? I'm not sure why, but we're running out of shampoo before anything else. Other stuff just seems to be lasting much longer. Minnie says she doesn't know either. Kazuya lies. She looks at him. Oh, he's fucking lying. She points at him. You're lying to me? Sorry if I'm wrong, but are you lying to me? I'm sorry. It's okay. You are forgiven. She forgives him. He just says the truth, and it's fine. Okay, now let's go to the date. There's stuff in the date, too. I think there's another good one in the date that I personally like a lot. That, again, contradicts this point. The problem is you're only seeing the instances where Chizuru made that mistake, not the instances where she absolutely fucking corrected herself, and at the same time took the initiative to talk to him, to get information out of him, right? That happens a lot through the day, multiple different instances. So here, let me pull up another one. This is just before the date. Okay. Morning. She says, I saw you in Shibuya yesterday. Seriously, in front of Zera. So she saw him before and she didn't ask. She was too afraid to ask. She musters up the courage. You left right after I saw you, so there wasn't really a reason to say anything. Were you shopping? She gets the information she wanted. Huh? Yeah. I was shopping for the date. She then clarifies, don't go overboard on the spending. I don't want you to go overboard on the spending. Okay? She is indirect, but she does do the thing. Let's pull up another instance. Yeah. The problem is I think you're saying she leaves it way too up to Kazuya too much, when that's not true. She is absolutely talking to him. And here's another good instance of that. So when they're on the date, Chizuru asks him, hey, you seem to know this place a lot. Kazuya kind of lies and meanders around it. Chizuru says, you don't have to lie to me. You've been here before, right, with Ruka-chan? Huh? What? She says what she's thinking. He clarifies. She says, I see, I'm sorry. And then she says, look at what she says to him. But are you really okay? Of course I intend to quit being a rental girlfriend, but you always say stuff like that. But you know what I think? If you can imagine your partner being with the opposite sex and not feel anything, that's not really love. So if you don't like it, I want you to tell me. Tell me. She said she can only know so much. She can only know so much. So she actively asks and tries. Here's another good instance. In 367, Chizuru is leading. She notices she's leading, takes a step back. She says, I took the lead out of habit, because he mentioned before that Kazuya wanted to kind of lead. He wanted to be in charge. It's his day. Actually, what do you think? Do you normally prefer that a girl who aren't too forward and follow these 3 steps behind? Is that your type? It's just, when I go on dates, I often find myself with inexperienced clients. I just thought I'd like to ask. Now, I think the problem that I can agree with Chizuru is that she isn't being selfish enough. That I can agree to. If you say something like, okay, Chizuru isn't being selfish enough in the relationship, like she's not saying this is what I want more and being very specific about what she wants, yeah, I can kind of somewhat agree with that. Even though we have instances where she's absolutely fucking said that. For instance, like when they're eating at the thing here, right? So Chizuru asks him a question here. He clearly didn't think it through. She says, I like people who properly think things through. She pretty blatantly says what the fuck she wants. He replies, and she's like, don't get the wrong idea. I'm not against it or anything. I think this is the most important thing. Not everything goes according to plan in life, but that doesn't mean it's okay not to have one. That's why if we're together, I'd like to know what you'll be doing in 3 or 5 years. I just don't agree with this idea that Chizuru's blatantly just waiting for him to say something constantly. She's doing that now, absolutely. She's absolutely doing that now. She's just waiting for him now. She's chosen the passive route. But I think she chose the passive route because the active route has done fucking nothing for her. In the date, she was more active than she has ever been in the manga. Like, really blatantly in front of him, just telling him everything. And, clearing up misunderstandings. Here, I think this is the best one. Where, you're just saying, Chizuru doesn't take initiative to clear up misunderstandings. Right? I'm pretty sure that's what you said. Here, let me say exactly what you said, so I'm not, just pulling bullshit out of my ass. Okay. There it is. Mami is able to accept it more quickly and more directly make advances in the relationship with Kazuya. More specifically, Mami notices misunderstandings quickly and is looking to rectify them quickly. It's a level of care and understanding that Chizuru does not have with Kazuya. Okay? This chapter unequivocally proves you wrong. I like people who properly think things through. Kazuya freaks the fuck out. He says, sorry, I know I should be putting more thought into this kind of stuff. It's just I had nothing else on my mind except for preparing for the date. Being busy isn't a good excuse. Hardships makes the man. You need to put your best effort into both romance and your hard work. Yeah, you're right. Does Kazuya say anything afterwards? She just looks at his face. She just looks at his face, sees there's a problem, sees there's a misunderstanding. Don't get the wrong idea. It's not like I'm against it or anything. Everything goes according to plan. All that stuff I just read earlier. That's why if we're together, I'd like to know what you'll be doing in 3 or 5 years. Will you be moving for work? How much time will you have off? What kind of company will you work in? I would be your girlfriend, right? She rectified the issue with care and understanding. This unequivocally proves you wrong. I just don't get that. I just don't get that. If anything, it shows how Mami doesn't really have care and understanding in the relationship because she thinks she's rectifying the problem. She's not actually rectifying the real issue. Think of it like this. Mami is fixing the stems of the problem, not the actual root. She's fixing the symptoms. You're seeing signs and you're fixing that, not the actual problem. Mami is essentially giving you what you think you want. She's merely fixing the signs, not the actual issues. It's for instance, here's a good example. For anyone who plays fighting games, they might understand this. In fighting games, there is reactionary development, a reactionary like tuning of a character, and then there's like carefully thought out tuning of a character. So for instance, in some fighting games, some characters will just have broken moves. And those moves will just ruin things. But those moves are kind of part of the character. So a developer who just reacts immediately may just change that single move to not be broken. Okay? And then you think the character is just magically fixed now. In reality, a smart developer, what they would do is be like, okay, let's rework the kit of the character so that way the move isn't just, maybe we don't change the move, but we make it so the move doesn't have these particular properties and we rework their entire kit so they can do these things and not feel actually broken. In so doing, we have fixed the character in a way that retains their identity of who they are while at the same time actually making them fun to play and not fucking stupid. And I think for example, Tekken 8 right now is doing the reactionary thing I was describing, where they're constantly like just overtuning the shit out of their characters and not actually fixing them properly. In so doing, like one character is fixed correctly and another character is like turned into a fucking stupid nuke that just explodes constantly. Whereas like something like Street Fighter 6 has nothing fucking changing constantly. Nothing about Street Fighter 6 ever really changes. It just remains consistent for fucking ever, but that's boring because you're seemingly like just have the same game forever and ever and ever with no change. Whereas something like Killer Instinct did amazing fucking changes. If you're interested in what I'm talking about, look up how they handled like Killer Instinct characters. Like I think here, let me see if I can pull it up. I think there's like a perfect example of this where the way they handled the characters in that game, which is like considered one of the best fighting games ever made, but at the same time, like we haven't gotten anything new from them because Microsoft owns it and Microsoft's stupid. Killer Instinct, root of the problem. I think it was Django. Character patch. Oh, geez, that's too long. Anyways, if you have the chance, just consider like looking up. I think it was like season 3. I could be wrong. I forgot when they did it, but that I think that perfectly like proves my point. It's like how they handled those characters. If you get a chance, just look that up. Okay, so where were we before? I do like this idea that like Kazuya seemingly unintentionally hit the little girl that is Chizuru. You're cooking with that. I agree with that. That's a good cook. That's a good fucking cook. I agree with that. It's just the interpretation of Chizuru's character. I don't agree with that. Let's see here. Right before the call class, Mami wants to tell him information right away, so there isn't some lingering ambiguity between them. She doesn't know where her and Kazuya stand, and she's going out of her way to clear it up. You getting it yet? Chizuru did that. Chizuru knows exactly where her and Kazuya stand. He won't give up on her. She needs to find her answer. What more do you want? Like, if you're talking about how right now Chizuru isn't checking that, absolutely. There, I agree with you. If you're saying that, I agree with you 100%. If you're saying right now Chizuru isn't checking where they are, I agree with you. You're 100% right. If you're saying in the cohabitation, hard disagree. Cohabitation to the date, hard disagree. If you're talking about right now, yes. I agree with you 100%. Yes, Chizuru is not checking right now. Chizuru has left it completely up to Kazuya. Kazuya is essentially saying where she is. She leaves it completely up to him. She doesn't interact with him. She doesn't fucking do anything anymore. Yeah, completely. I agree with you. But understand, Kazuya's relationship with Chizuru is so fucking fucked. Kazuya's relationship with Chizuru is so fucking fucked that she's essentially been conditioned that ghosting him is the right move. Which I think should be like a big tell. There's a fucking problem in their relationship. And he's ghosting her too. Again, Reishi packs so much into very little with the interaction after car class. When Kazuya startles Mami, without the benefit of hindsight like in the simulation, Mami is caught off guard very easily. The scene also shows how through the actions beats are almost identical to chapter 10. The answers behind them are completely flipped. Actually, Reishi does something brilliant. And I feel like they might have seen this by this point. Remember, this is like 24 days old. I feel like Reishi might have seen this by this point, this person might have seen it by this point, where I literally said, like, the chapters intentionally leave it ambiguous as, is it actually flipped? Do you know or don't you? Because you see intentional parallels to those events, and then you question if they are actually flipped or if they're not. Because so much of it seems really similar. To the point that, like, it almost looks identical. Is it flipped, or did you just do something slightly different? Mami isn't doing some ploy to trick him into the cart, except she kind of is. Because you never see the earring. You never once see the earring. Did Mami ever have an earring? Did you notice that? We see Mami's ear in chapter 417. There's no earring. And we never saw an earring in chapters 415, 16, or any other point. Was the earring ever real? Was the earring ever real? She never comes back to get it. She just leaves without it. You never even question that. You don't even know if what she was actually looking for was real. So you don't know. Right? You don't even know if that's the truth. You don't even know if that's truly accurate. Isn't that interesting? You have no idea. Is it real? You saw an earring in chapter 400. We did see an earring in chapter 400. We never saw an earring later, so we don't even know if that was real or if it was fiction. It literally mirrors the exact theme of the arc. Reality and fiction are blending together, and you don't know which is which. Okay? She seems very worried about the implications of not being able to find the earring she's missing. Put a pin on that for later. Kazuya assumes it has to do with women being afraid to be accosted by a random stranger. He then slips and falls on top of Mami in a scene reminiscent of the many times that has happened between him and Chizuru before. Once again, Mami is contrasted in her approach against Chizuru. Mami holds Kazuya firmly from the back and asks him, can we stay like this a little longer? Again, in the Japanese, it's a lot more like passive. She's not actually like... She is holding him, but her words are a lot more passive. The closest parallel to the scene comes to the top of Chizuru in the situation now, I think it's chapter 247, 248. There, Chizuru simply says, wait, you can say how even in the words used to arrest Kazuya, and Chizuru holds him from the front. You also missed that. Chizuru also grabs him. from getting carried away in different nuance. Chizuru says Kuwait can be anything. She plays it off as it being a leaf and Kazuya's hair leaf. A leaf we see later being a lie. Mami's word, oh my god! The leaf was a lie, just as Mami's earring was a lie. Oh my god. It's just with Chizuru, it's explicitly told to you that she lied about the leaf. With Mami, it's not explicitly told to you because you can't tell. Mami's words leave no room for interpretation. They say, I want to remain in this compromised position with you just a little longer. No, there is room for interpretation. And in the Japanese, there absolutely fucking is. In the Japanese, there fucking absolutely is. No. Mute wrote all about this. It's intentionally very, very ambiguous in the Japanese. She's being so fucking passive. It's so passive in the Japanese. It literally, all of it is Mami leaving it up to Kazuya, but intentionally seducing him. It creates it's a paradox. It's literally a paradox. Mami doesn't want to make a choice. She wants him to make the choice. It's literally the thing you don't like, but Mami's doing it in a way that makes you think it's what you like. It's literally the thing you don't like. I want to explore the feeling of being close to you. I want to know this is what I want to do. At this point, Mami has surpassed Chizuru in the level of intimacy she can admit to wanting. Mami went from 0 to past Chizuru's emotional immaturity in months compared to Chizuru's years. That's also very not true. She absolutely has not. Mami has deluded you into thinking she has. She absolutely has not. In fact, Chizuru is way more emotionally mature to be able to hold off. However, in many ways, Chizuru should have acted in other instances. At the time, she couldn't have. But now, I think Chizuru can. Where this all leads is still tricky to unpack. Kazuya lost in the part of himself that believes in dreams, so he needs to get it back. Mami's the one who took that away in the first place. He needs to treat every situation, every simulation with certainty and not as a game. He needs to understand... Well, that's the thing. There is no certainty in life. It's a matter of just treating it as it is, rather than certainty. He needs to understand that Chizuru is hurting just like him and overcome the barriers that she put up to help her. He's the only one who has even in the position to do so. No one else comes to save her, and many are actively casting stones at her. I don't think he's capable of doing this on his own. I think Sumi's gonna, again, be the thing that drowns him in order to help him realize he wants to breathe. And I think this is what a lot of people are missing about Kazuya right now. They keep saying, why can't he just see how he's messing up? Why is he ignoring things? He literally can't. He's blinded by light. Same with Chizuru. Why can't she just see that it's already love? Why does she go out of her way to isolate herself with so many people are in her corner already? She literally can't. She literally can't. Broken people don't fix themselves. See, I wouldn't say Chizuru is broken. I think Chizuru's foundation is broken. Kazuya is broken. Kazuya is absolutely fucking broken. But he's made Chizuru feel broken. Chizuru is not broken. Chizuru feels she's broken. Just as Kazuya is not weak, he has conditioned himself he's weak. However, he is broken right now. He is absolutely falling the fuck apart. He is. Chizuru is not broken. She's just been tricked into thinking she is. She's not broken. She's been tricked into it. They keep perpetuating the same behaviors that show why they're broken. Kazuya is. Kazuya and Chizuru are both fundamentally unable to see things differently right now. Kazuya and Chizuru are both fundamentally unable to see things differently right now. No, Chizuru is willing to open her mind. That's why she goes to Minnie in the first place. I think that's where we're kind of misunderstanding is like, we think Chizuru fundamentally can't see things differently right now. She wants to, but she wants you to like actually fucking listen and talk to her in order for her to be willing to actually see things differently. She absolutely is willing to see things differently. She just needs just a valid reason to believe so. Whereas Minnie refuses to even interact with her and actually give you a valid fucking reason. Chizuru's not just not deluded. She actually is willing. That is the whole point of why she goes to Minnie. She literally tells Minnie, I don't know what to do. Help me find a solution. I feel trapped. I don't know what to do. Help me find a solution. Minnie doesn't do this. Minnie just corners her more. Chizuru wants to... That's the thing. That is the brilliance of this current arc. Every single character wants to change and doesn't know how, except for maybe Kazuya, who doesn't actually want to change. Every single character, Mami, Ruka, Kibe, Kazuya's family, even in some ways Sumi, want to change. They just don't know how. Kazuya is the only one who keeps asking, how do I change? when he knows how to change and he doesn't want to. That's the big difference between Kazuya and every other character. They're all trapped wanting to change and they don't know how. They just really, really want to change. And they don't know how. Kazuya knows what he needs to do to change. He just refuses to accept it. Kazuya knows what he needs to do to change. He just refuses to fucking accept it. He just doesn't want to. He doesn't want to change. He is comfortable being who he is. It is literally picking comfortable pain. It's exactly like trauma. It is exactly like an addict. It is exactly like an obsession. You pick the thing that you're familiar with because it is so much easier than picking something that will make you uncomfortable. Because that is exactly how trauma works. You are conditioned to pick the thing that is easier for you than it is to pick the thing that is so much harder for you to do. It will require so much work. In fact, you see it in this chapter. In fact, you literally see it in this chapter. What does Kazuya do when he thinks of Ruka? What does Kazuya do when he thinks of Ruka? His immediate reaction is, no, this is too much to process. I don't want to deal with this. He puts it to the side. It is so much easier to be confused for Kazuya than it is to confront the reality that it is not that confusing. That there is something wrong here, and this is the steps you need to take to fix it. What does Kazuya say? I don't even know where to begin resolving any of these feelings. Yes, you fucking do. You can just start. You can just start. He has tricked himself and convinced himself he doesn't know what to do. It is so much easier to convince yourself that you have no idea what you're fucking doing when you actually know exactly what you need to do. You just don't want to come to terms with it because you don't like that solution. That solution makes you uncomfortable. It is so much harder to do the right thing than it is to like stay comfortably doing the wrong thing. And this is an interesting thing I just noticed too. Reiji does this interesting thing with Kazuya's shadow here. Notice how Kazuya's shadow doesn't have his silhouette. The shadow does not have Kazuya's silhouette. It looks like a completely different person. This doesn't even look like Kazuya's shadow. And you might say, oh, well, this is just a stupid thing Reiji did. Like, I bet Reiji isn't really thinking about it that deeply. Counterpoint, this is a direct parallel to an earlier scene in the manga where Kazuya's shadow is intentionally highlighted. So I'll pull up the chapter. Do you think he needs Chizuru to change? He wants Chizuru to change. Chizuru is changing. That's what you don't seem to understand. Chizuru is changing. He wants her to... He thinks she already changed. Kazuya is certain Chizuru already magically changed and became a completely different person. She fucking didn't. And there's a perfect chapter that reflects this. I'm going to show you this first, and then I'll get into that. So, chapter 418. Okay. These two chapters are no doubt parallels. Reiji has been striking multiple different parallels to Hawaiians. It is not subtle. It is absolutely intentional. I showed you an earlier one when we were talking about the flashback that Kazuya has, or sorry, the dream that Kazuya has. But look at this one. Look at Kazuya's shadow here. It has the spikiness of his hair. Now look at Kazuya's shadow here. It has none of his features. It has none of his features in the silhouette. It's like, this isn't him. He's like a blank slate. The shadow has no identity because he has no identity. Now, for the thing you were describing earlier. Kazuya thinks Chizuru changed. He wants her to be a different person. He doesn't want Chizuru anymore. I think that's the fucked up part. Kazuya doesn't want Chizuru anymore. He wants the Chizuru that will make him happy. He wants all these things he's seeing with all these other girls. He wants Chizuru who's very aggressive. He wants Chizuru who is like very affectionate and outwardly says, I love you, and hugs him and walks with him and does all these things with him. That's who he wants. He doesn't want Chizuru anymore. He wants a delusion. Chizuru seemingly doesn't actually matter in the picture anymore. And no chapter better reflects this than in chapter, I believe, 395 Or 394. Let me check. 394. Okay, my bad. When the chapter where Chizuru is going to reject Umi, what does Kazuya say? Mizuhara has changed. Then it's possible such a thing could happen now. Okay, she's changed, past tense, not present, past tense. It's the same in the Japanese. You cut to Chizuru, she's changing, present. She's changing right now, like literally changing. It's as if he's wrong. Something else is happening here, and Chizuru is literally changing. Chizuru is trying to change. Is that change good? Probably not. It might be a negative change. It might not be what we think it is. It could be a very negative thing. Or it could be a positive thing. Or it could be both. Maybe it's a blend of both. But Kazuya wants Chizuru to be someone else. He wants her to change. Is that how you should get into a relationship? You want someone to change? You want them changed? You don't want them who they are? It makes you question, what is change? Isn't that fascinating? Kazuya wants Chizuru to change, but he doesn't change himself, like, actually. He visually changes himself, right? He wants Chizuru to emotionally change herself, but he visually changes himself, right? He doesn't emotionally change himself. He wants her to emotionally change herself. He doesn't recognize he might be the one who emotionally needs to change himself. And maybe Chizuru needs to, like, physically change herself in a way, like, you know, act differently physically, convey things differently physically. Like, I do think that might be the thing. Chizuru maybe needs to start being more physical with Kazuya, whereas Kazuya needs to start being more emotional with her. Because she absolutely is being very emotional with him, and he's not being emotional with her. But she might need to start being more physical with him. And I think maybe that might be what needs to change. Chizuru might needs to be more physical with Kazuya, whereas he needs to actually be fucking emotional with her, and he's not doing that. Did we read everything? Let's see. It takes a really specialized approach. No, I disagree. I don't think it takes a really specialized approach to fix things. I'm not a fan of this idea. Change does not need some special magical solution to occur. You just need to start. I disagree with this. Kazuya and Chizuru are fundamentally unable to see things differently right now, and it takes a really specialized approach to begin fixing these things. No. You just have to start. It does not need some magical special approach to make this change. It's not... yes, you're correct. It's not a straight line either. But it does not need a specialized approach. I think Reiji is actively going out of his way to say you don't need some magical specialized approach to make change. You just need to start. And Kazuya is refusing to start. And I think that's what Reiji's setting up. If Kazuya just does one thing, the dominoes will start moving. Every time Kazuya does even the tiniest fucking thing, the dominoes fucking start falling. And if Kazuya actually commits to real change, the dominoes will fall. And things will start moving. You just have to commit to change. It doesn't have to be specialized. You can just start. This isn't about making the wrong choice, it's about being unable to make a different choice. No, it's about being willing to make the wrong choice. It's for Kazuya, yes. For Kazuya, it's being unable to make a different choice. For Chizuru, she wants to. She openly says with Minnie multiple times she wants to make a different choice, and what does Minnie do? She makes her double down on the choice she doesn't want to do. Right? Chizuru's actively conveying to Minnie, I want to do something different. And Minnie's just like, nah. I'm not going to be your friend. I am going to be your shipper. Which is horrible. Sometimes you need someone in your life to guide you to make a different choice until you can start making better decisions on your own. That is, I think, what Kazuya needs right now. Which is ironic because, you know, the whole thing I was talking about with Chainsaw Man, where it's like, literally, that's what Denji needed. Denji needed someone to help him make a different choice. I think Kazuya needs to do that for Chizuru first. Help her realize she doesn't need to make this choice. That's what Chizuru needs, is like, Chizuru doesn't want to make this choice. She just needs someone to tell her it's okay to not do this. In contrast, I think Kazuya actually needs to admit he needs help and guidance from someone to make a different choice. Because he absolutely is not like capable of making his own decisions anymore. And he needs to recognize that and like start taking a little autonomy over himself. So I think you have the right intentions. I just think you kind of might be possibly missing some important points. As far as next time, okay, well, we don't need to read any of that. Anyways, yeah, I read that for you, G. I'll try and stream again tomorrow. It's getting a little late, so I'd like to get some sleep. I'll try streaming again tomorrow. Sorry, I couldn't do as much as I would have liked. I started streaming late, unfortunately. We did not get to read any of Reddit, which fucking blows. I was supposed to read the serious Reddit threads, but that did not happen. Ugh. So I think I'll just call it here for tonight. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. You know what? We're gonna sleep early today. I'm gonna stream early tomorrow. I'm gonna get off at around 12 tomorrow, so maybe I'll stream at around 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That is set in stone. I'm gonna sleep early tonight. We're gonna do this. We gotta start making like decisions and sticking to them. I always preach sticking to your decisions, but I don't do it myself. You know what? I'm gonna start today. We're gonna start today. I'm just talking about we need to start making real change. Okay, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go take some fucking melatonin, clean myself up, get some fucking sleep. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Let's see. That's why I don't understand why Kazuya didn't notice when she said she wanted to mess with him. You've got to step in at that point. But no, it's literally ignoring reality. Kazuya is literally ignoring reality. It's intentional. She even said that she wanted to break Kazuya and Chizuru up. That's why Mami is so hard to read. Yeah, it's Mami is not that hard to read. I think maybe you're referring to Chizuru. I don't know. Kazuya doesn't take a shred of responsibility for love or the future. Yeah, that's basically one of the ways you can start overcoming your own lack of control over your life. You start taking responsibility. You start taking over real things in your life to start taking control. You know, you start making real decisions that require actual effort and responsibility. And Kazuya does not fucking want that. I can see the possible angle of OG Johutsu ending for Mami if she doesn't really want to marry Hakuba. I don't know what that is. I'm assuming the person doesn't. I think for me personally, Mami's ending is like her deciding herself her future and nobody else. Not with a boy, not with anything else. She decides her future. I hope Mami's ending does not have her possibly ending up with anybody. And if she ends up with somebody, she chooses it. She chooses to be with that person and nothing else. Anyways, that's where we're gonna call it. Good night for you all. I'll see you guys later. See you tomorrow. I will stream at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time tomorrow. There should not be any exceptions. If there is a change of rules, it will not be for too long. See you guys tomorrow.